Today we're going to be talking about the Caregiver program in Canada. If you are interested, stay tuned. But first, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to be notified when new videos about Canada immigration are posted.
Vancouver Tower, good afternoon. Citizen 1116, RNM approach.
Okay, 116 Sunny Vancouver Tower, which was 6 Crystal Line runway 26 straight.
When we said caregiver, we are referring to the current caregiver program for the occupation. Presently, the program for caregiver are the home child care provider and home support worker. The previous program are interim pathway for caregivers, caring for children and caring for people with high medical needs, and the live-in caregiver programs. All these three programs are now closed for new applications. The home child care provider and home support worker are permanent immigration program, meaning you are submitting a permanent resident application originally. However, you can submit a work permit application along with your PR application to keep working in Canada while your application is being processed together with your family member. For those who are only wants to work in Canada as a caregiver without a PR application, unfortunately at this moment, you can only apply for work permit if you are currently in Canada and working as a caregiver and want to extend your work permit through the Temporary Foreign Workers Program or TFWP, and an employer is willing or can provide you a positive labor market impact assessment or LMIA before you can apply. Eligibility requirements for the home child care provider and home support worker program. Aside from being admissible to Canada and intending not to reside in the province of Quebec, there are three requirements to qualify for the home child care provider and home support worker. Number 1, proficiency in English or French. Number 2, at least 1 year Canadian post-secondary education or an equivalent foreign credential. And number 3, 24 months of Canadian work experience within the last 36 months prior to your application or offer of employment if you do not have a qualifying work experience. Let's take a look at them one by one. English or French language proficiency. You must achieve the Canadian language benchmark in either one of the official languages of Canada, at least level 5 in every component: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. In English, you can take the International English Language Testing System or IELTS in general training test and score at least 4 in reading and 5 in writing, listening, and speaking. Or the Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program or CELPIP, also in general tests and score at least 5 in each component. For French language, you can take the TEF Canada or TCF Canada and must also score a minimum of CLB 5 in every component. Educational requirements. You must at least complete 1 year post-secondary Canadian education or equivalent if your study is outside of Canada. For foreign credentials, you must obtain an Educational Credential Assessment or ECA report issued by an organization accredited by IRCC. The designated organization that assess foreign credentials are Comparative Education Service from University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies, International Credential Assessment Service of Canada, World Education Services, International Qualification Assessment Service, and International Credential Evaluation Service. You will need to contact one of these organizations and comply with the requirements to have your foreign education assessed. Canadian work experience. For work experience, you must demonstrate that you accumulated at least 24 months of full-time authorized work experience in Canada within the last 36 months prior to your application. For home childcare providers, your occupation should be listed under NOC 4411 of the National Occupational Classification or NOC system. For home support worker or related occupation must be under NOC 4412. You must have provided in-home care for an adult. Being a housekeeper is not qualified experience. For both applications, you must demonstrate you performed the action outlined in the lead statement and most of the main duties of the NOC description. Your work experience does not need to be continuous, but you must have 24 months of authorized full-time work experience in Canada to qualify. The required documents for the three eligibility requirements are: for language proficiency, copy of the language test result from the institution authorized by IRCC. The test result must be less than 2 years old at the time the IRCC received your application. For English language must be from IELTS or CELPIP. For the French language must be from TEF Canada or TCF Canada. For Canadian education requirements, proof that you completed at least 1 year Canadian post-secondary education. You can submit your diploma and transcript of record showing you attained the required education requirement in an institution in Canada. For foreign education, submit your foreign educational credentials and an educational credential assessment or ECA report issued by an organization designated by IRCC. Ensure that the assessment shows that you have completed at least a Canadian 1-year post-secondary education and the assessment date result must be less than 5 years old at the time you submit your application. For Canadian work experience, copy of your most recent work permit in Canada, your employer reference letter for the period of your work experience you identified in your application. The letter must include the period of your employment, your job description that corresponds to the NOC code, your salary, and the number of hours you work per week. And the copies of your T4 tax slips together with the notice of assessment from Canada Revenue Agency for the period you indicated in your application. If you do not have a qualifying work experience, for example, you work as caregiver in Canada but less than 24 months, or you have 0 Canadian work experience, you can still apply as long as you meet the other requirements whether you are inside or outside Canada. But you will need to provide an offer of employment from an employer in Canada and must submit the immigration form IMM 5983 completed and signed by the employer. Your family member can also come with you to Canada while processing your application for permanent residence, whether they want to work or study in Canada. You can submit their application along with yours. First, submit the permanent resident application and a work permit application at the same time under one of the pilots, including the application for your family members. Second, officer will assess the application. If you meet the requirements, you will receive an occupation restricted open work permit. This will allow you to work as a caregiver for any employer. Your family member can enter or stay in Canada with an open work permit or study permit. Third, the permanent resident application is held until all requirements are met. Obtain 24 months of eligible full-time Canadian work experience. When 24 months of work experience is met, send the proof to IRCC. Upon receipt of the proof, the permanent resident application will be put back in processing. An officer will assess whether you meet the work experience requirement and make sure that you are not inadmissible to Canada. Inadmissible to Canada means you are charged in any of the following grounds. And lastly, the officer will make the final decision for your permanent resident application. Keep in mind that there are limits to the number of applications they will accept each year. As per IRCC website, they will accept a maximum of 2,750 applications per pilot each calendar year. So before applying, check the IRCC website or consult an immigration practitioner if you are still eligible to apply. For the processing fee for this program, if you are alone or no family member, you will pay the processing fee plus the right of permanent residence, total of 1,085 Canadian dollar. If with spouse or partner, you will double the amount. And if you have dependent children, add 155 Canadian dollar per child. You will also need to pay the work permit application fee separately for you and for your family member who will come with you to Canada. The fee for work or study permit is 150 Canadian dollar per applicant. This concludes our topic. Please visit the IRCC website for the most up-to-date information. I hope you learned something. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.